What is up, everyone? How's everyone rolling today? I mean, Dallas, this is all for you right here. This was for you.
I wonder if Brian is going to like our song choice.
Oh, I knew Dallas was going to come in just rolling.
I'm going to boot Dallas from the call. That's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. All right, so we're rolling.
And at the same time, feeling her man, that you know I ain't with it. Ain't no good enough to get her while I'm offended. And that's thriller than real deal ugly feel. And that
you like our song choice? Oh gosh.
Hey, underrated snack, pretzel nuggets.
Oh, they're good. Peanut butter filled? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what Kel found the other day? She found Doritos 3Ds. They brought them back. Dude, I just had some Doritos 3Ds.
I mean, you get that 3D crunch, man. That
Dude,
3D
it feels
crunch.
like I feel like my teeth are breaking when I bite into 3D crunch.
Did you wash it down with a Surge?
Oh, I wish. They don't sell those. Surge turned into Amp energy drinks. That's what Surge is. Amp energy drinks.
I had no idea. These
Now
fun
you do.
facts.
Fun facts. Now you know. The more you know. Okay, Brian. He says nope.
That wasn't me.
I know, different Brian. He says nope. Not Surge energy drinks or Amp energy drinks.
Well,
Get
I mean,
out.
if you don't put the details in the chat, no one believes you. So, like,
They're both made from Coca-Cola. Prove
just
me
saying
wrong.
nope doesn't mean anything. But
Prove me
hey,
wrong.
we are throttling up to that solid 30 attendees, 31. We're rolling. So, I mean, hey, we're about 30 seconds out. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, we have 152 registered for the call. So let's see who the liars are.
I mean, isn't everyone a liar?
Oh, whoa.
They sell Surge here in South Dakota.
Well, it's a South Dakota. What do you expect?
This body was built on Surge, bro. It's like
Also,
90
my buddy-
grams of sugar. 90 grams of sugar in a can.
I know. I invited my buddy Brian, who's the other Brian in the chat. I invited him to the call. He's actually from South Dakota previously. His family up there and everything.
I think you told me this.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Other Brian from South Dakota. We're at.
This guy's got a lot of family roots out there.
All right. We
Nice.
are slapping down on that solid 2 o'clock. So,
Well, it's 12 p.m., so let's just get that straight.
It's
well,
actually one.
you know, it's the time that the call starts into which we start the call.
Do
So-
I leave our background music going during this whole thing?
Oh, I know. Can't let that run. I wish that was the case, but like Zapier gets some real hilarity real fast, to say the least. So, what is are we recording this?
They all record. They all get emailed.
They
to
all
all of
record?
us.
Okay, well, hey,
We've
let's
dealt
do it
with
then.
this, Charles. Welcome
Hey.
to your first day on the job.
First day always, right? So what is up, Agency Elephant, leaders of the herd call? Today we're going to be walking through Zapier, just giving you a good idea of the basics, what it is, in what ways we use it, why exactly companies end up going down that particular line, and then showing you a couple of legitimate tools in your tool belt. Okay. Running and gunning with Zapier is not something that you kind of do lightly. You want to make sure that you're able to have at least a hammer and a nice little Phillips head or something like that in your pocket, right? It's just getting that stuff lined out. So first thing I wanted to do is just kind of walk through, what is Zapier, right? Personally, my view of Zapier is it connects your software and stuff that you want to end up utilizing to other software. And it's one of the most expansive versions of that. Okay. So just think about it as your connecting kind of phone board. All right. You want to end up, you watch those older videos with the ladies that are sitting there connecting one person to another. That's basically Zapier's job. Okay. They're connecting pieces of information from one side to other pieces where you can end up having action items with that. Okay. So now kind of comes up like, why even use Zapier, right? Like, what's your thoughts on that, Matt? Like, what's your reasoning behind, running with Zapier?
I see Zapier as being, it's my data integration company. It's how I send data from one platform to another. It is a way to avoid having double entry in some areas. It's a way to track things that are happening in your agency or things that are coming in. But mainly for me, I use Zapier as a way to get a real running time list, a real-time list of customers and prospects in a Google Sheet. Every Zap run that I have puts that person into that real-time Google Sheet. Even if they're duplicated in that sheet, it doesn't matter to me. I want a real list of anything that I put in Agency Elephant, or anything that comes in through a form, or anything that comes in through any avenue, through a bot on Facebook, any avenue. I want that person to go to one main source at the end of that run, always. Because then I have a real time list always populating.
Yeah, I mean, and just to line that out, Zapier can do so much for you, like you said, from connecting the apps, or like you said, from being able to get a good idea of how well maybe a Facebook ad is doing with their leads, being able to populate that into a list, right? Being able to basically just take your mundane, repeatable tasks out of it. So that way, when vendors emails are coming in, you're able to end up porting that stuff over. Whenever you have certain emails from a particular, from a particular person or from a particular vendor, that allowing other things to be triggered.
Particular event you're doing or giveaway. Yeah. Like you can have every giveaway, every event, everything you're running can tag in that Google Sheet what they came from. So at the end of the day, you can always filter, you can sort, you can run reports on that and see, hey, where are these people coming from? At the end of my year, where did most of my leads come from? Was it from ads? Was it from giveaways? Was it from events? Where are my people coming from? And then when you're closing those people as customers, you can change their status in that list to show them as a customer. So now not only are you seeing, hey, they came in from a giveaway, this is how many people converted at the end of the year from all of my giveaways.
Yeah, like it's just the more information you have, the easier it is for you to plan and take advantage. And that's what we want to give you here, is a way for you to be able to control the flow of that data and to be able to trigger some cool things that happen off of it. But again, this is the basics conversation. So we're just going to be going over, a couple things when it comes to webhooks, how to be able to end up utilizing that, how to basically format from dates, names, etc. Right? There's a lot of times where information from one source may not flow easily over to another. So think of it like, just different languages. Yeah, you're saying something specifically in this language, but it needs to look this specific way in this language in a different app, right? So formatting allows you to control, move, and shake that particular item. Now, before we move on, I just wanted to see if anyone else had any questions about Zapier, what exactly it is. I hope we really answered it. And if we did, F's in the chat.
And while people are doing that, Zapier only grabs data, only grabs words and data. It doesn't tell you what that data is. You have to tell it. And that's what we're going to go over, is how to grab things out of emails, how to say what area of that sentence you're trying to grab out of, how to change how it looks, how to do all of that. That's what we're going to go through, because all they send is words. We're the people that care about what word in that paragraph we want every time. And that's what we're going to go over, is the basics on how to do stuff like that.
Absolutely. All right, great. So it looks like no questions. Everyone's feeling pretty good. Everyone's rolling. Okay, no problem. First thing I want to end up doing is, let me go over here to tools. I know I'm not sharing just yet, so y'all just give me a quick bit. That way I can get everything else end up lining up. So any which way. So
I still don't understand the F in the chat thing.
Oh, dude, it's coming. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Let me move this screen over. That way that's not the thing that I'm sharing. Boof. Perfect. All right. Close that chat down. Great. And yeah, I don't think I know how to spell elephant, so I wasn't able to get into the other account. So we're just gonna line this one up in the other one.
You couldn't get into the account.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Me and spelling elephant. We just don't know how to do it. All right.
So for the first time, I gave Charles a fake account, so he wasn't using his own account.
Yeah.
Couldn't even log in.
I can't spell elephant. I'm good at nerd stuff. I'm not good at spelling. So
well, thanks for telling everyone the password.
Dude, to what email address?
Good point.
To what email?
Good point.
To what email address? So I mean, like, go on, find it if you will. It's sugardaddy@gmail.com. Anyway, so what you're gonna want to do, and the first thing we want to talk about, is just webhooks and how exactly that ends up working out. Okay.
Or what a webhook is.
Yeah. So we're gonna go through that and kind of walk it. Long story short, a webhook is just a way for you to grab data from one item towards another, and allowing basically Zapier to see that. Okay. If you want it to trigger, like we've done some things before off of a Google Sheet, right? You'd have it set up to where the webhook would be connected to that Google Sheet into Zapier, and would allow for that information to flow towards Agency Elephant or towards other items, because there's a lot of other things that end up using webhooks. Would there be another way that you would describe it, Matt? What's your thoughts?
I mean, basically what you're saying, to make it as easy to understand as possible, is if something is grabbing first name, last name, mobile email, and you want to send that first name, last name, mobile email to another source, a lot of the ways that has to be done is the webhook is the go-between. It says, hey, I am grabbing this first name, last name, mobile email, and I'm using this webhook to send the information to another party that is going to use the webhook to receive that info. It's basically like a phone, if you will, and you're going from one phone to the other.
Yeah, and a lot of the main reasons why you end up using a webhook for a lot of things, there's a lot of integration that Zapier has that is based around webhooks, because they don't have an open API. API just means, like, can I see everything that has to do with your code at will, right? And so, like, Google does not have an open API. Surprising to no one, right? Facebook doesn't have an open API, but they do create ways for you to interact with it, either with Zapier or using webhooks. So just kind of keeping that squared away. So for us in this situation, I just want to make sure I show here where to actually go, because every once in a while, I end up being hilarious and forgetting about that. So what you want to do is, at the very top of your account, click on settings. Once settings ends up pulling up, you're going to click over here on integrations. Okay. And then you can click right here on Zapier, manage campaign, give it a second. And then, of course, yes, you end up having to have the, what's the word for it? The Zapier kind of package added. Okay. So in this particular situation, this is how and where you would go to get to a webhook to allow for different pieces of information to get moved over to Agency Elephant. And the main reason why we use the Google Docs is just because you're able to have that running list of information, of data, so you can better understand where your campaigns are, where your activity is, and then just do a bunch of other fun stuff. But that's not really where it stops there, right? If you wanted to have a webhook that is somehow connected to Facebook, to Salesforce, for those that are in the 1999 year where Salesforce was just rocking and rolling, right? Jotform, Shopify, I mean, there's just a ton of different pieces of info that we can end up using here to basically grab that telephone wire. Okay, so in this situation, we can end up using Google Sheets as we would normally. You want to end up titling this particular Zap. Okay, so whatever you want to call it, demo, etc. If you wanted to add tags, whatever those tags may be, great. Charles, right? You can add tags to it specifically. So if you had it where you had multiple incoming lead forms from each person, you can tag it to each person accordingly. Go on, bro.
Statement. What Charles is showing now for our basic users is the end point where our information is going to go to. It's not the initial grabbing of information. This is the end point. Where is everything going to go and how is it going to get there? And that's what we're showcasing.
Yes. So this is just showing, because it's a lot easier sometimes to show off the cookie than it is for you to just look at all of the other items that you can do with it and then getting overwhelmed, right? So let's just slowly but surely, right? So again, here you can end up having it where deal statuses are allotted. So if you wanted it to go directly towards your prospects folder, great. If you wanted to go somewhere else, great. If
you're running specific events, giveaways, farmers markets, specific events where people enter, it can stack in that status. And then there can be immediate actions that happened after that.
Yeah, so I have this set up for many things. I love being able to use the deal status option, whether doing this through the Zapier run or anything else, because man, being able to specifically throw it to somewhere in your pipe that anyone here recently did X, Y, or Z. It's just a good feeling to have a great running total of like, all right, this stuff is working. I can see people being moved into that category, and I can keep track of that while also looking at my Google Sheet. So here you can enable or disable if you decide to stop running the campaign. There's a lot of stuff in here I got to disable. So we end up clicking submit. This is again the end version, and then we'll roll right into the rest of it. So this is the webhook. This is that telephone wire that you need to have for that easy breezy, beautiful conversation between two different runs. So that's the webhook. I wanted to make sure that we had that conversation. But remember, guys, the beautiful part about Eleforms is the fact that you don't have to create this this telephone wire, which is why Matt's consistently talking about, yeah, you can build it through Jotforms, yeah, you can build it through this, yeah, you can build it through that. But at the end of the day, is it doing anything any better than what an Eleform can do, since it already has that particular integration? And since it's free, like I use Eleforms for a ton of stuff because I'm able to customize it as much as I possibly can.
So let's explain what a trigger is, or the triggering event, because a lot of people get hung up on this. This is the initial action that takes place that you're trying to grab from. So that can be an email that comes in through Gmail. That can be a Jotform. Like in Gmail, you can pick when a new email hits, when a labeled email, when a start email, when a specific email hits your campaign. you can pick these things, right? This is the triggering event that's going to start the run to grab information.
So if y'all, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick.
And I think you should showcase when you grab emails what they look like. Like, are you connected to Gmail on Zapier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grab one of your emails, like if your most recent one isn't like personal data or anything. I want to showcase how messy that looks when they get it.
No problem. So the biggest thing that I want to say, just to kind of get you in the mindset of what a trigger is, y'all ever remember those, building a better mousetrap little things where you end up, moving a little race car and it ends up hitting something and then it hits something else and it hits something else. And then all of a sudden it has a bowling ball rolling down the side of, a car or a wall or whatever the case may be, where it gets triggered small, but then is able to then through chains and actions create a larger and bigger kind of impact. That's all the trigger is. It's the very beginning of the conversation. When this happens, I want this next thing to continue. Okay. So that's what's the basic conversation around the trigger. So let me just click on new email. I want to make sure I find one that isn't, isn't ridiculous. God knows what I send out.
Oh, well, thankfully it's what you get received that we're going to be looking at.
I mean, yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's a lot of things that are in there. So, all right, continue, whatever, test trigger, whatever. All right.
And this, what Charles is going to show you, is one of the bigger hangups for users when using Zapier is, what do I do when something looks like this?
Exactly. So 1 second, I'm clicking to share my screen, and because it's not over here,
right when it shares,
I do too.
It's like when you're sitting at a red light. You're sitting at a red light.
There we go.
And green.
And green. And green. All right. So let's just walk through what this looks like. So you have your Gmail. I'm not going to go by this fast. You have your Gmail. New email comes in. You want to choose the account. So that's my email address. Choose a trigger, your inbox, right? You want to test the trigger. So again, this is the thing that people get a bit worried about.
Now
it looks like this.
You can also, if you go back to the trigger, instead of new email, choose the new email, scroll down, trigger, inbox. You can also pick in that new email where he did choose app, you can pick new email from specific senders. So if you get an email, like you're running a specific campaign, or you're trying to get all emails that come from your lender to grab into a Zap, you can pick on that email from a specific person. Okay. So it doesn't have to be all emails. It can be specific senders.
And this is just showing you how the data looks, just so, again, understand it was as overwhelming for me as it is for you. Like, all this stuff looks like gobbledygook. Like, what is that? No one really knows. Okay. But there are pieces of information here that can be of some help, right? So when you're going through this, take a little bit of time and then just not so much read the gobbledygook, but try to find the places and areas that there is some usable information for you to be able to end up using, right? So, for example, if I have an email from a vendor, like, I used to use Insurance Leads some years ago, okay? And every time from Insurance Leads, the what's the word for it? The actual subject line would have the person's, first and last name. Okay. So with that in mind, you can now set it up to where, every time a email comes in from this place, it's going to look at this information and grab the info between 4 and that dash. Okay. So
that's exactly what we're going, is how to do that.
yeah. So now we just grabbed a random email from my inbox. Okay. So now we can actually go through the next piece, which is formatting, trying to get it to where it'll flow that information and cut out pieces of the information that you can otherwise, want to use to more helpful bites.
Now,
Okay.
keep in mind, your emails that you're getting, if you're trying to zap from an email, that email has to be the exact same way,
Every single time.
every single time. So don't try to zap and fix a problem where the email is not consistent. If it's coming from a vendor, it's a form that they're filling out and emailing to you, so the form should be relatively consistent, right?
Yes.
So if you're going to fix a problem, make sure that problem consistently like that form or that email, everything has to be consistent, because we're basically going to say is, hey, this email has 1,600 items when we format it. We want the first and last name are always item 932 and 931. And that's what you're grabbing when you format these things.
So yeah, so here's a lead that I had from back in like 2013. Okay. So for example, on here, whatever, right? No personal information, but this comes through the same way every single time. So because the lead comes in that way, or hell, like if you get claims emails, they come in the same way every time. So you're going to be able to set up a zap to be able to do this. We'll go through how to do it down the line. I just want to make sure I gave you your basic conversation to be able to build on that as we continue. So for here, we want to kick it off by, let's just try to find some text. Okay. I want to transform, sorry. So we can do exact pattern. So it all depends on exactly where you want to end up going with it. What do you think? I think I would do exact pattern on this one, just because.
I usually start with a markdown from HTML. So I'll say, hey, let's convert HTML to markdown, because if there's any HTML coding in there, and then I'll grab the body or subject or whatever that is. In the subject, you wouldn't have to because there's none, but for the body information, like if you look at
the body in there, I'll put the body in there for you.
Look at that. It's HTML and it's just a mess. And it tells you it's HTML. So if you convert valid HTML to markdown and hit continue, it's going to convert all of that info from that. You can see all the HTML in there, like the slashes and conversion, to that. Now we have something we can work with that is clean information. However, that's all one item. You can't grab anything out of that right now. And the next step that he'll show you is how you separate or split it all up into individual items, so that you can pick what items are actually important. I do have a question about Dallas singing a Cardi B song in the chat. It is a little interesting.
Capitalize, marked on HTML.
I do whatever you want to do for this one. I typically will split that text so it has its own items, because what you're saying, I usually do as separate fields. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then make sure the input is the subject or the body that we just did for number 2.
Yeah, I think I already did end up doing that part. Action or event. Continue.
right there, value.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
You're good.
Text.
So then you're obviously grabbing the one that you just changed, which is your text 2, right? You're grabbing to make sure you're for the users on the call. Then when you're done with that, when you hit test and review, it takes all of that value and it gives everything its own item. And why is that important?
So what's great about that is every single time that email comes in, the first name from those leads are always going to be item 18. The last name's always going to be item 19. Okay, because everything is set up and everything is punctuated the same way every single time, mostly because the lead company is sending you an email that's automated from a computer that can only put information in the areas that it deems fit. Okay. So for you, the consistency of whatever the information is, the greater that it is, the better off that you're able to end up getting everything else lined out. So that's why for each vendor, like, and I think Matt does this all the time whenever he does the Built For You Zapier, where you have the one vendor that they're able to end up utilizing. He's like, yeah, like the reason why Matt says one vendor is because this is what he has to go through for that particular vendor, whatever that vendor might be, which is also why it's a lot easier if you pick from the XYZ vendors he's already built out for. Am I right, Matt?
Correct. You can only pick from the vendors we pick out for.
Yeah.
For you.
Unless you upgrade that package to that white glove. That white glove unit.
I'll build anything you want on that white glove.
Exactly. So from here, retest continue. Fine. All right. So now that it's all fielded out, now you can do.
So one thing to be aware of is, yes, we have everything separated. All of the first names, all the last names, everything separated. Your next step can be sending those people straight to a Google Sheet using the items. Hey, item 18 goes to first name. Item 19 goes to last name, right? But sometimes you run into a problem where they send over forms where the people filled it out in all capitals.
And then you'd want to end up, let's go back over here. So before we continue, I just want to make sure, chat, how are we feeling? Like, are we in a good spot? I like doing check-ins in between us going over to the next items. So how are we feeling?
Is there anything we need to go back over on this? Okay, I think we're good.
We're good? Okay. Awesome.
So the formatter feature that Brian's going to show, that Charles is going to show.
You look very similar. Same tan.
Beard. Same beard, same skin color, same hair.
All the same.
Same hair.
Identical.
Identical brothers.
Separated at birth. So, no, you were saying.
Yes, you're going to get the recording. So sometimes when you're getting emails from events, let's say you have QR codes, let's say you're at a farmer's market, there's a QR code to scan in. And when they submit their information into whatever form you're using, they put all caps, You want to make sure when you're sending your automation, it doesn't say, hey, Charles, thanks for coming to our event. The formatter will allow you to take, I want every item 18 to be title cased. And this text formatter allows you to do that. And I always have this step in every single one of my runs that I do, because I don't want, at the end of the day, if you could spell title, it would help.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
There you go. Every single one of my runs has a title case because I want to make sure my data is clean every time. And he's going to come in and say, well, which option are we title casing? And this is why the items are important, because you're saying, hey, title case them. Continue, right?
Now, this may be a bad example because her name is LaDonna.
Yeah.
But, hey, what can you do?
What can you do? Okay, so we're going to say, hey, title case LaDonna, and it'll change that information to show.
Oh, sorry. Let me go over here. Since I already have this one lined out. 1 second.
You're good.
Mm-mm.
And Zapier is a time-consuming process to get involved in from the beginning. It is not something that's going to be easy for you to pick up. For 99% of people, it is not going to be easy to pick up. It's going to be a little difficult to understand. That is why when we recommend using Zapier, it's for something that deems worthy the time that you're going to spend to build it out. And then as you do things, like I spent hundreds of hours learning how to do these steps through blogs because I had nobody to reach out and talk to about it. I just read blogs.
No, I mean, there was just, look, there's a lot of places that get lost on the internet when you're talking about Zapier, or even worse, there's a lot of people that will say they can set up your Zapier for you if you pay them $100, $200, $500, whatever dollars. Most of those people are kind of scammy from time to time. Just throwing that out there. Like, it's just, you have to be really careful whenever you're talking about things moving and shaking, because remember, you are dealing with some very specific client data. So if you're ever in a spot where you need some help with it, you got to make sure that that person is very trustworthy with some of that data, and that you change your email or you change your login after they're done, just so you can make sure that there's not a bunch of your client's information flowing around West Covina.
West Covina.
I'm sorry, crazy ex-girlfriend. I just throw it out there. But anyway, so just as an FYI as well, if you wanted to kind of make sure that you knew what each of these things are.
And I've never changed the action name. And this is something I just learned right now, because I always have to go through and say, what was I trying to do in step 32?
Yeah. So like literally just go to the 3 dots. You can rename the step. That way you can know. Because if it just says text every time, like it gets real confusing.
You're telling me.
I mean, I guess so. So like here, let's go over here to set the setup action. So for name, okay, I can do, if you just change your name on there, you click refresh fields and it pops up. So just FYI. So now it has the output. Now I can also go over here, show more of the options. I can do last name. So first and last name. I can go back in here. And then because everything is lined out on this version, I can grab an email. If I feel like it, throw it out, throw it away. You're good.
Question. Every time you're doing these, make sure you're separating out that first and last name into its own fields for the Google Sheet to make sure that you can send it correctly to Agency Elephant wherever you are, because it'll keep it more consistent. Always separate those fields out. If you're using forms and you're trying to integrate those, they will be 100 times more easier than what we're going over right now. And if you show, do you have a form that you can grab data on that's fake or no?
Not really right now, but,
okay.
You know what?
Let's say you're using a JOT form. Your trigger would be, hey, JOT form, when new submission is added, the form has first name, last name.
I'll grab my Wufoo, the Wufoo that I made.
Great. Whatever that form has as fields are the only thing that's going to be grabbed from that Wufoo. So if you're saying, hey, first section of the form is always first name, put that into the first name of Google Sheet. Your steps are going to be much smaller than what we're going through right now. Emailing stuff, the email version of Zapier is a little bit more detailed, but the reason we're showing it is because it highlights a ton of the formatter things that you can do. A couple of the formatter tools that are really important for Agency Elephant is the extracting phone number, extracting email, and extracting dates. You can use those 3 formatters that are similar to, they're in the text formatter section, that you can say, hey, between items, because sometimes the phone or email might not come in the same exact items. I have found this to be very useful, a good tip. Between items, you're going to grab items 18 through 30. Okay. And the email's always between items 18 through 30. If you grab all of those items and you say extract email, it's going to look through every single one of those and pick the email and pull it out. You usually can't just use that from the body of the email because there's a, hey, do not reply email from the sender. There's other emails within that form that they grabbed. You have to find a paragraph that has the email you want in it. Grab that whole thing, use the extract. That way you don't miss it every time. Same thing with phone numbers. I always grab a couple above and a couple below the item, even though they're usually very consistent, just to make sure that I extract the phone number correctly. Date and times are the same thing. Really important to extract those. Doesn't matter if they're the X date. It doesn't matter what the date is. It gives you the ability to trigger event reminder campaigns and X date campaigns. So using those extract emails, extract phones, very important.
So for example, in this one, just because we're already running through this, so because everything's already lined itself out, so if I go over here and let's say if I just find another policy, not like another phone number or whatever in the world that would be. Like
there's usually multiple in there. And sometimes if it's a form, it's like, hey, they'll have the person filling it out, their phone number and email. They'll have the secondary person's phone number. They might have a third person who's a driver phone number and email. They might have multiple, but you want to grab the primary every time. This is how you do that.
100%. So in this one that we're just kind of utilizing, this one doesn't have a phone number associated. That you'd think that was an IP address. But in the case that, let's say, you know, this right here was a phone number, or this right here was a phone number, you grab that, kind of looks like a phone number. It's not going to end up doing that. Refresh, continue, and then now it's going to spew it out as, you know, some type of phone number, even though it's not a real one in this current. Okay.
And if it's not, if it doesn't have enough numbers in it, and this is the important piece, if it doesn't have enough numbers, if the email doesn't, if there's not an @gmail.com at the end of it, it will not output anything.
So you see right here, like I tried to trick it by just throwing in a larger than required phone number. It output is nothing. And then so it's just an example of, it is very smart. So that's why you have to give it very specific instructions. So, but even if we wanted to go back and pool, according to some people,
good job.
Bite me. In case you want to pull some information based on,
grab the date. Show them how to pull a date field, or I think if you scroll up, there was a specific date in one of those categories.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Okay, grab that. Now here, this is the full date, right? We're looking at the full date and time, but the problem is you can't send that date to Agency Elephant and have it. You actually have to change the
Hold on one second. So just to make sure that y'all know this, just go back. If you want to change dates, go back up to the top, click it for date and time. Continue. All right, we want to transform. Wait for it. Formatting, input, we want to take that to, you know, what kind of format do we want to now turn it into? So the biggest part right here is like for Agency Elephant. Well, how do you type in the X date every time? Okay. How do you want it to look? If you are from communist Russia, then of course you would end up putting year, month, day. Okay. Or if you're from the greater 48, you end up clicking a different setup. Okay. So you can grab it from, and now you have to also tell it, okay, what is the current format that it's in. So if you're looking at this one, it has
never even done that.
Yeah. So it'll actually, so for example, for this one, you can see Thursday, 29 April, whatever. Okay, well then now we can see that matches up very cleanly with this. Okay, now let's make sure that we look at that. No, that's not quite it. It would be this one. Okay, now we're going to refresh fields, continue. And then now
I'm going to watch this fail and I'm going to laugh.
What do you mean? You mean that?
Look at that. So that is exactly what we're talking. Extracting phone numbers, extracting emails, extracting dates. Those are very specific things you can do with the formatter tools without having to get really crazy. Now, there's one last thing I want to showcase before we show them how to marry webhook to webhook. Okay. Last thing I want you to showcase is the replace function. Sometimes you will notice when you're sending data that information will come as Han, comma, Matthew. Okay. When data gets sent, there might be a comma at the end of something that you don't want in your automation. You simply use, in that same formatter, there is a replace option. And you're going to say, hey, what are we replacing? And you're going to say, we're going to replace the comma. So you put a comma there. And what are you replacing it with? If you leave it blank, it just removes all commas and the things that you are grabbing, or periods, or whatever it is you're trying to remove. Sometimes there's a dash in between areas that you need to get out. That is what you can do to get things out of an item, because sometimes Zapier will grab things in an item that aren't part of it.
Let's be specific. What are some times that there are some dashes or some weird things in there? Like, what are some things that you've seen?
Me?
Yeah. Just
I see a lot of commas at the end of last names, especially from vendor leads or from any other type of information I'm getting. I see a lot of dashes. I see sometimes in the front of a item I'll grab, it'll be like a number 1 with a parenthesis thing because it's the first thing in whatever I'm grabbing, or 2. I need to get rid of the first, the 2, and the parentheses. So those are ways you can say, hey, replace this with nothing, and it will remove it.
So again, we'll just go through this as if it was a text. Again, right? Text, formatter, continue. All right. You want to replace. Okay. So then we're going to pick, let's use something that.
Use one of the texts that we have so it's easier. Let's call it not 12. Any of those single ones. Yeah, call it not. Or red 13, that is a period. Right? We're like, hey, we want to grab red, but we don't want the period there. So you're going to say find, and you're simply just going to put a period in the find section. And then when it says replace, you don't want to put anything there. So you'd leave it blank. And when you hit continue and test and review, it will show you that red is now red with no periods. So that's how you remove things out of areas. Now, if you wanted to replace something, like you want every item 18 that every person gets sent in to have a specific field, well, you'd say, hey, take every item 18 and I need to make sure that it has the agent's or whatever agent's name or whatever it is you're putting in there. You can replace all things from item 18 that are this with something else. The replace.
Let's see here. All right. So for example, we want, like, in this particular situation, this would be this should be a actual website. I want it to find these two things. I want it to replace it with nothing. Okay. I'm gonna have to end up figuring out how to do that part. So
The
I wanted to
reason
find a
why
place.
is because you can only do one at a time.
I can only do one at a time.
Yeah.
Well, like I was.
You might be able to do a
fine.
comma.
I thought I was gonna be able to do a comma, like
think you
well, a
can.
comma or a space. I'm not 100% sure.
And this is what, well, the problem is when you're doing the find function, Charles, is it's finding exactly what you're putting in there. So if you're putting
Yeah.
exactly a bracket, comma, other bracket, whatever that is, it's going to look for that exact thing.
So,
That
for
exact-
example, right, it has this backslash and then the little, run, right? So if I wanted to just show this one off, right, I would replace that, continue, and then I would have to make a whole different one of these to try to end up removing the other side.
Correct.
Okay. So boom, see? So now that part's removed. Now, if I wanted to remove this other piece, I would have to make another replace just for that.
Correct. And that's
So-
what, and even me and Charles, who are very well adapted in Zapier, it's like, hey, we'll try it. Let's see if it works. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, let's try something else. It's a lot of
Yeah, and-
trial and error.
It's because the crazy part is you may build it 100%, like let's say 99.999% correct, and you click test and review, and because a period in whatever upper section may be is there that's causing it to fail, everything will fail. And you're going to have to go through it and figure out what that is and how to be able to end up fixing it sometimes.
Well, think about this. Think about this from emails. If your vendor lead that you're getting from, they put a middle initial or a middle name, now all of your items move one item down. So if you're saying 18 and 18 is always first name, not anymore. 18's first name, 19 isn't last name, 19's middle initial, 20's last name, but everything else below is now pushed one item down. So when you're looking at doing Zapier stuff, you need to make sure that it's consistent, and you need to plan for it to be inconsistent on the email side. But for forms, it's a little more straightforward if you're doing like a Jot form. Let's show them how to marry that spreadsheet and how to send that information you're putting to a sheet to the webhook.
I know. I hate myself, and I have to. I have
You
to do
didn't
this.
replace. You had to do it.
I have to do it because if I don't, then I'm not going to like myself. So like I'm sorry. This is what happens. I will literally get lost in this for so long just because I want it to do exactly what I want it to do, and if it doesn't, then I get angry. So there you go. Now you've successfully created an output that is the actual website that now can be usable. Right? So that was literally it's two different runs to get it all squared away to where it looks like you need it to, but perfect example. So throwing that out there. So what was I supposed to do now that I'm off of my tangent?
Webhooks. Show them how to marry them all.
All right, got you. All right, so here let's back out. Let's back out of this one completely. Let me stop sharing. God knows what's all in this thing. Oh, all right. So let's do this one. Give it a second, y'all, because I have so many tabs open, and I know people hate me for it, but it's okay. All right, so to kind of gear it back up to where we were before. All right, so let's go over here to the window. To the wall. Don't finish that in the chat. I'm joking. Please do. So if we go back to where we first started with the webhook, okay, you're going to need to copy that. Go over here to the actual Google sheet that you needed. Maybe this is Matt telling me that he got kicked out some kind of way. No, it wasn't. Okay. So anyway, so remember when you're doing this, again, there's going to have to be something that happens to trigger the conversation. So in this case, this would be you sending from another form, however you decide to end up doing it, sending information to Google Sheets. And then from there, just remember these steps. If you want to fast forward to however long we've been on the phone, please, for the love of God, remember this. Action, okay? action is post. Okay? For the love of all things, the action is post.
Show them all the actions.
No, I will. But I need people just to type post in the damn chat for the love of God.
Don't type post. Gobbledygoo.
All right. So you can put, you can custom. If you use custom, you hate yourself. You absolutely hate yourself. If you use custom, you hate yourself. This
is like when Charles goes on his rant that you either buy you either buy or die.
Yes. Like you either press post or you hate yourself. Those are the options.
So let's make this a little conceptual for people, okay?
Okay.
So that you can understand the term post. You are posting this information to Agency Elephant. That's the only way that you need to look at it. You're posting the information that you got to somewhere. It's posting. Now, it would kind of make sense that it was putting the information, but let's not even go there.
But it's not. Do not make it make sense. Don't worry about it making sense, because I had put forever. I did everything else right. I messed up and put. Everything failed, and I broke a laptop. Okay, well, not a laptop, like a keyboard. But what do you want from me? So post. For the love of God, just post. I'm gonna say it again. Post. Continue. Don't worry about what it is. Press. Sorry, I'm trying to get better. Okay. So post.
Now, you use all the payload stuff? I never use the payload.
I do it just because I like to make sure it has everything in the case that something goes weird. Like we always talk about me overbuilding everything. This is not required. Please know that this here, none of this is required. Like you could delete all this out. None of it just all that can be gone. It doesn't matter. Okay. But remember over here, guys, where we end up grabbing that, right? We grab this webhook link. Okay. Now you want to paste that right here in that URL section. Okay. So what you are saying is, hey, Zapier, I want you to push the information, post the information that we have to this URL specifically. Okay. So by you being able to do that and it reading off the Google Sheet, you can now line out, and again, to something that Matt always says, if there is a first name, you need to have an underscore in between.
Look at you.
You need to have an underscore between last underscore name. Okay. And again, for those that don't know, everything that goes into Agency Elephant goes in as mobile. And if you are on this call and didn't know that, I will find you and delete your account.
You can't even log into the clone account.
No, I can't. I can't log in anything. I have zero power. Let's be honest. Okay. So all of this information, let's just go over again. You want to basically tap this right in here. You want to have whatever data that you want to have. Wrap array, no. File, don't you dare put anything in there. Unflatten, no. Okay. Basic, don't care. Headers, again, putting the same information.
You don't even necessarily have to have those either.
No,
it's just in case something fails.
Just in case something fails, I overbuild everything. So continue. Now, test was successful.
2 weeks ago. Hit it again. Hit it again.
We'll retest. Fine. Sent.
Great.
Okay. So that is your full circle. Then here, I'll go look up myself and then show.
Now, webhooks with Zapier, you can do the other side of it. So let's say, for example, and this goes into other avenues. if something like Chatfuel or if some other program says, hey, we're going to send this out on a webhook, here's the webhook. You can say, Zapier, get information from this webhook. And you can do it the reverse way to get the info to Zapier and then send that info out where you need it to go. That's the other side of it. Sometimes a two-sided phone cord isn't going to work. Sometimes you got to have a phone cord from A to B and B to C.
Yeah. So easy way to describe that is if you have someone that speaks Spanish and French and a person that speaks Spanish, you want to have those two people chat it out to be able to pass it to someone that speaks French and English so you can understand it. It's just slowly translates that data, communicates that data to you, the end user, in a way that you can understand it. In this case, the way we understand it is by stuff being in Agency Elephant for these purposes. So as you can see right here, you see that it was triggered right here on the 29th at 12:56, aka because I have my time jacked around for Pacific because I like making later phone calls than what the system allows me to. So I just changed my specific date and time to allow for that stuff to happen. So, you know, what do you want? So anyway.
Look at you.
I mean, look, little tweaks. Little
Do we have any questions? And I completely bombarded your call, by the way.
No, dude. This was supposed to be the this is supposed to be what the conversation is about, because it makes a lot more sense when two people are able to have that back and forth kind of run. So again, like this was just the basics call to get you to a point where you have a couple of tools in your tool belt to now start trying to build other things. So you can rewatch this video. There's certain things that we're doing in this video that that upon first viewing, before you try to build, maybe don't make as much sense. You start trying to build it and you're like, oh my God, that's what happened. I was trying to replace too much of something when I can only replace one item at a time. So this is all going to be sent out, of course, by email. And that way that y'all can continue to view it. But please, y'all try to use Zapier, fail, yell at someone, hopefully not your significant other, maybe like an inanimate object, and then get back at it and try it again. Because there are so many tasks we do every day that we don't have to, and utilizing Zapier helps you accomplish that particular item.
Look at us. Look at us too, because Brian's not even here anymore. He's gone.
Oh, it's all good. So,
He's
hey,
gone.
Before we head out, though, any questions? Let's throw
Did that
it down,
make sense,
y'all.
Brian? What are you thinking?
He's working on his mic.
First day.
Brian's are the worst.
What'd you think from a non-Zap mind?
You guys are smarter than I am. That's what I think.
In this area, maybe.
It's just a lot of coding. I think it boils down to patience and testing, just like anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's look. I know I'm a nerd. Like, I completely get that, but I'm also like I hate losing. Like, I love, my hobbies, my activities all boil around the idea that whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to make sure that it works the way I want it to work. Being someone that likes to, maybe play pool or or someone that might want to end up throwing darts. If I throw a dart and it doesn't go where I want it to go, I'm pissed, right? The same thing boils down for Zapier. If I have it built out a certain way and it doesn't do what I want, I will obsessively work on it until it gets lined out. Now, it's all about, like Brian said, that testing, retesting, and just making sure that it flows. Because once it's done, you free up a massive amount of time for yourself.
I agree. At the end of the day, you've got to boil it down to, are there things on your plate that you want to automate that you can't do through an Elaform or something else? And is that worth your time to learn how to do it this way? If yes, great, spend the time to do it. If not, move on and spend time doing something else. People get hung up way too much trying to do things that are not necessarily important or do not bring the value that their time they're wasting doing it. The exchange has to make sense.
Yeah, if it takes you 2 months to line out, how one form talks to another, don't do it. Like if it takes 2 months,
get a new form.
Get a new form. You use a better form. Like it's kind of like if you have to go to a restaurant like 300 times for the food to be good, stop going to the restaurant. Like go to a different restaurant.
Buffalo Wild Wings?
Like just find another one. Okay. So the conversation always has to be, is this the best utilization of your time? And am I able to do it within a successful amount of time to be worth the value? To both of y'all's points, as far as where Matt and Brian's concerned.
Now, so as an outro,
have a good day, y'all. You got to turn that up.
That was awkward. That was super awkward.
And you ask questions.
Hey, thank y'all so much. Again, we absolutely appreciate that. Thank y'all F's in the chat if y'all got a little something out of it. And thank y'all so much for coming out. I appreciate it. I know that I can be nerdy as all get out, and I'm happy that Matt and Brian could be along for the run.
Talk to you guys later.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.